All right, so today we're going over something special for the first time. I recently reacted to Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft 1.0, but he actually came out with an NFL draft top 50, and I've used all of my self-control to not look at it until now. Recording this, can you see? You can't, but it's the 3rd of February, and the only one I know, because I saw it on Twitter when I was scrolling down, is that Bernhard Raymond is number 28. So that's all I know. But the rest of the top 50 should be very interesting. Hopefully, I was hoping it was going to start at 50. Starts at number 1. Is that the best way to do this? Should we start at number 50 or number 1? I feel like most of you guys are going to be more familiar with the names at the top. So I guess we'll work down. And that's going to start off with Aiden Hutchinson, who I am a bit surprised to see here at number 1. I like Aiden Hutchinson quite a lot, but you're not sure if he's the best prospect in the entire draft. However, there are some concerns with Kayvon Thibodeau. I know Daniel Jeremiah has mentioned ankle tightness with Thibodeau as kind of a thing, which you worry about with edge bend. I feel like for just the average fan, you might not realize how much flexibility, especially ankle flexion, is important for pass rushers. So that's a really big thing, but Aiden Hutchinson does have some of the best hands in the entire draft in terms of that pop power. So, Aiden Hutchinson at number 1 is very interesting. I haven't done a deep dive myself on any of these guys, and obviously Daniel Jeremiah is much more qualified. So, still early in draft season for me. I think I got into it more in early January last year, late December even, but I just haven't had the time this year to really dive in. So I am a little bit behind the curve, but we're just going to take a look and familiarize yourself with some of these names and where you might expect to see some of these players go on draft night. So Hutch is number 1. Ike Mekwonu at number 2. Liked him a lot. He was a guard that moved over to tackle this year and has been incredible. Watched him quite a bit, actually. Really has improved in pass pro, and he's incredible as a run blocker. Big mauler, and he is one of those names that's actually risen up quite a bit of late as potentially the number 1 overall pick in the draft, and I could very much see that happening. And Evan Neal at number 3. I feel like he's been the name we've heard of for a while now as the OT1 in the class, right? But Ekwonu's been amazing, and Neal does have some concerns. Alabama gets the football out pretty quickly as well. So when Neal has some of these balance issues that are, I don't want to say fairly well documented, but they arise from time to time. They're not really put in a spotlight, at least in a negative way, because you don't really notice it because the football out so quickly. But Neal has all the athleticism in the world. I saw him do like a box jump that was insane at the start of the year. I want to say it was like 42 inches. It was something wild. So this Alabama article says that he says you can do a 48-inch box jump. I don't know if that was this video. Is that 48 inches? You can check this out. It's absolutely insane that someone 6'7", 350 could move that way. It's unbelievable. Kyle Hamilton is a number 4. I think he could be the best overall player in the class. He is a safety, which kind of lowers his value a bit. But still, I keep saying this every time I bring that up because we don't really see safeties go that high anymore. Like we saw Jamal Adams go. He was like top 5 pick most recently that I can think of. But there's so much too high played in the league, and you need good safeties to be able to do that. So I don't know if you think that Kyle Hamilton can be your Derwin James piece that you move all around, and not saying that he necessarily can do that, but is athletic enough certainly to be able to do that. Kyle Hamilton's amazing. Top 4 in the draft. Definitely seems viable to me, viable in terms of like overall talent. However, Sauce Gardner at number 5 is the first real interesting one because it's a really tight race to be CB1. You have names like Derek Stingley Jr., who was so amazing as a freshman, less great, and injury concerns come up as a sophomore and junior. And then you have guys like Ahmad Gardner. You have Trent McDuffie, who I like quite a bit. You have Andrew Booth Jr., who I like quite a bit coming out of Clemson. You have a number of players who are kind of in that conversation to be the first corner off the board. Seeing Sauce Gardner at number 5 is interesting. Has some crazy like stats with like 0 touchdowns allowed for his career, and I think less than a yard per target pretty amazing. Or maybe per coverage snap is what it is, not per target. That'd be pretty insane. But yeah, Sauce Gardner at number 5. Would be interesting to see if he's the first corner off the board. Huge, by the way. Like, you wouldn't necessarily think it, but he's like 6'2", 6'3". Big body. Yeah, he's listed at 6'3", 200. I've seen 6'2" as well. Kayvon Thibodeau is your number 6. Yeah, we talked about some potential flexibility concerns, which is outlined here down at the bottom. Hopefully you guys can see that, and you can. Although I might opt to make my face cam slightly smaller. We don't need to see that much of me. Yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau, kind of viewed to be the number 1 player in the draft for the last year or so. And now, I don't know that it's prospect fatigue necessarily. It's just some things that we've seen over the past year. And as he mentioned that, where was he? Effort can be a bit spotty at times. I think some of that can be attributed to injury concerns. He was dealing with an ankle for a while, still played through it. I still like Kayvon Thibodeau quite a bit, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him go very high in the draft still, but we'll see where he goes. We'll see where he goes. I think a lock is a top 10, but maybe could fall outside of that top 4, maybe get to 5 or 6. We'll have to see. Nakobe Dean is at number 7. Love Nakobe Dean. And Devin Lloyd back-to-back. I think that's a fair ranking because Dean and Lloyd have kind of been like fighting for LB1 over the entire year. And we'll probably just look at both of them for the same amount of time here. Nakobe Dean, and I don't want to just say this because of Roquan Smith, right? And Georgia connection. But the way he's able to go sideline to sideline, really flashing coverage, man, it really reminds me of Roquan Smith at times. Nakobe Dean is a special, special player. And I don't know, it's the same thing with safeties. We talk about linebacker value, but I think you see different defenses that have been transformed by big-time linebackers. So if you have already those established edge rushers, which I think is still the most important part of a defense, I mean, everything's important though, man, but getting that pressure on the QB is so imperative because it makes everybody else's job easier. We see what Fred Warner has done for that San Francisco defense as, you know, he's in a league of his own as pretty much the best linebacker in the league now. He's unbelievable. Roquan Smith is great too. But, you know, we see what these guys do for these defenses. So I wouldn't mind taking a linebacker high. Devin Lloyd kind of in that same range, a bit bigger. Nakobe Dean's like 6 foot, 225, something close to that. Devin Lloyd's 6'3", I think 230 or so. Really, really good player. He's also pretty good in zone coverage as well. He's been a fun guy to watch. Had a big interception in the Pac-12 championship against Oregon too. Went for 6. Number 9 is Garrett Wilson. I've had him as receiver 1 in the draft for a long time now. He's been awesome this past year, and even going into the year, I liked him as receiver 1. He's someone I've seen quite a bit of, and he's just physical. You wouldn't necessarily expect that, but he's a physical receiver for not the biggest guy in the world. So, not saying he's Jamar Chase, because he's not, but the same way that Jamar Chase offers that physicality at the catch point, the top of the route, you know, you see Wilson work through the stem and create that separation, that space that allows him to get some of those tough catches. And I mean, you love it. You love to see it. So Wilson as receiver 1, I don't hate. Now Drake London as receiver 2 is interesting. He's massive, 6'5", over 200 pounds, but he moves pretty well, which you wouldn't ordinarily expect. I've seen him lined up as big slot, and he's been good on the outside as well. And that wasn't exactly working with the best quarterback play either. Keaton Slovis for a while, and Drake London was someone who went down with injury, but is a big-time threat. And someone who's as big as he is, that moves as well as he does, you don't really see very often. And that kind of goes along with Treylon Burks as well. 6'3", I think he's actually over 230, even though listed at 225. I think he's over 230. And he's going to run really fast. When I watch him in Arkansas, it's just like, oh, he's not moving that fast. And then he's faster than everybody on the field. You can kind of get him in the running back type game as well. I think you can move him into the backfield and find success. And that's not just because of, Deebo Samuel, that's a running back. That's not necessarily Treylon Burks' game. He's a big dude to begin with. You know, we don't see too many Brandon Jacobs-sized running backs. But Burks is so tough as a runner that you want to find ways to get him the football. And Arkansas did that. Bubbles, slants, flat routes. Get him the football and watch him get yards after catch. So, Treylon Burks, sky's the limit there. Yeah, same way like Deebo, AJ Brown type body, even though he's obviously bigger than Deebo. closer to A.J. Brown in terms of size, even though he's bigger than A.J. Brown as well. Derek Stingley at number 12. I like Derek Stingley from what I saw him as a freshman and even a sophomore, but injuries as a sophomore and junior have really hurt him. And this was someone we talked about being a top 5 player in the draft for a really long time and now has dropped a little bit. And yeah, you talk about effort, injury. Who knows if he's just saving himself for the NFL? He's like, all right, I'm not going to worry about it. I've locked myself in as a first round pick. Could end up being a steal if he drops in the draft because of his concerns, we'll say, with injury and with effort at times. Now, Trent McDuffie at 13, someone I like a lot. I've talked about him potentially moving back to safety. Like, Earl Thomas was someone sized similarly at like 5'10". I think McDuffie's probably got an inch on him even. But McDuffie is so willing to come down and tackle that I almost wonder if you want to play him as a nickel corner, even though he has the ability to play on the boundary. I almost wonder if you want to play him in the nickel or potentially move him back to safety, and you could have a real rangy over-the-top guy. Obviously, depends on the defense. You don't see a lot of teams run that single high like Earl Thomas used to, and that's that Washington-Seattle connection. Earl Thomas, obviously a Texas guy. Hook 'em horns, but you know, McDuffie's awesome. Now, I'm not going to say he's the best corner in the draft, but I really, really like what he brings to the table. And as I've said, it's the willingness to come up and tackle that's particularly impressive when he can already be really, really solid on the boundary and coverage. But I would love to see him play nickel corner. And that's not really a highly valued position, although it's so tough to play. And you see some of these great corners play the nickel. Like, I think of Marlon Humphrey. I think of maybe the most underrated corner in the league in Indianapolis Colts superstar Kenny Moore. So I would like to see him potentially play the nickel. I think you could get away with that. And depending on your defense, obviously, I think McDuffie has the capability to do that. Karlaftis at 14. He's got some of the best hands in the draft as well. I think right up there with Aiden Hutchinson. He's not quite the athlete, but is a pretty good athlete, even if he's not that upper echelon. Length is a concern with the arms, and then, you know, sometimes you can let the offensive lineman just really grab a hold of you. You know, longer arms will help with defending that, but I don't really think that's going to be a major concern. I kind of think that can be overblown at times. And Karlaftis is just, he does everything well from a technical standpoint, which is hand placement, and the strength in the hands too is pretty crazy. So I like George Karlaftis quite a bit. As we get to Trayvon Walker at 15, I've been hyping him up quite a lot for a while now, probably for a few months now. And it's because the first time I watched him, I just go, oh, he's going to be someone that is like a hybrid, you know, like inside to outside guy, depending on the scheme, depending on the formation that they come out in. Sometimes he was playing like 5-tech, which is a little bit inside the tackle, right? And sometimes he's playing as like a true edge guy. However, sometimes they even let him drop back. And he's so fluid in space for someone that's so big at like 6'5", 270. So I've loved Trayvon Walker for his versatility. You guys on the channel know how much I love a versatile weapon. And Trayvon Walker, for someone that can play multiple spots in the defensive line, move inside, outside, and play off the ball at times to give you, you know, different looks on defense. Man, I think some defensive coordinators are going to fall in love with the different ways they can use him and the different blitz packages, you know, that you could implement as a result, because you can drop him off the line. Now, I think a guy like Steve Spagnuolo would love a Trayvon Walker, the Chiefs defensive coordinator, but I doubt he gets there. As we get to his Georgia teammate, Jordan Davis, not much else to say about him. I mean, he's 6'6", like 330. He's absolutely massive. Has ability to actually create pressure as well. He's not just someone that can stonewall and basically anchor as a nose tackle and eat up blocks. But that's what you want. You want someone that can really just hold the offensive line in place, two gap at times, and make plays, and Davis is that guy. Kenyon Green at 17. He moved around quite a bit. The only O-line position he hasn't played is center. And he was someone that coming into the year, we're like, okay, this is one of the top O-linemen in the class. He could move to tackle, really raise his stock, but he's just more of a guard. So probably not going to go as high as some of these other tackles. Like, he was supposed to make the move that Ika Mekwonu did this past season. And while he didn't do that, he's still a really, really good player. Plays mean, and you love these offensive linemen, especially guard, that are maulers and athletic. Kenny Pickett at 18 is our first quarterback. Now, I don't think that's going to end up being what happens. As I record this, Senior Bowl practices have been underway, and Malik Willis is lighting it up. Big time potential there. I think Malik Willis probably will be the first quarterback off the board, but Pickett had the best season. So do you value tape or do you value potential development? Concerns about Pickett's hand size wasn't even measured at the combine, or not the combine, at the Senior Bowl, but previous measurements potentially had his hand size in the 0th percentile, meaning that there's not a quarterback in the league with hands as small as him, but he plays with the gloves. Maybe not really concerned. He played at Pitt, didn't really have a fumbling problem. Who cares? Kinda is where I am on that. I mean, throw the ball, you can throw the ball. You don't fumble, you have good ball control, who cares? And I mean, we saw Joe Burrow get talked about for his hand size, and Joe Burrow's playing in the Super Bowl later this week, so there you go. Tyler Linderbaum at 19. Love Linderbaum, a little bit undersized. I think he's only about 290. However, doesn't matter. Plays a lot stronger. He's got that Iowa farm boy strength and moves so well. If there was ever a center that was going to go top 10, I think Tyler Linderbaum could be that guy. Jermaine Johnson at 20, another big riser, has been unbelievable at the Senior Bowl. Certainly the best player there by all accounts. And Jermaine Johnson was someone that did have good tape already. Amazing, amazing run defender. That was his big thing. This guy's going to set the edge, and he's going to hold it, and he's going to make a play. He's athletic. He's strong. He's a former 5-star. You might remember him on Last Chance U, even though he wasn't really focused on what seemed like a missed opportunity at the time and still does. 5-star, ended up transferring to Georgia, ended up transferring to Florida State, and put up really good numbers for the Seminoles this past year. Now, actual pass rush moves and plan was kind of a concern anyway, but after what he's done in the one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl, Jermaine Johnson is going up. And I'll probably do a video talking about some of the biggest risers from the Senior Bowl as well later on this week, probably coming out on Monday. So whenever you're seeing this, if it's been up for, this day or the next day, look forward to this coming Monday. As we get to David Ojabo. David Ojabo, man. Freak athlete, big time potential. He is the Malik Willis of edge rushers, where it isn't all there yet, but he flashes. And if you think you can develop a player like this, you might get one of the best players in the entire draft. So love David Ojabo. He's got an amazing spin. I don't see anything in here about a spin, but he's showcased and flashed a spin move that is pretty quick. And we've seen guys have success with that over the years. Brian Burns, I think most recently, is kind of the name that comes to mind. And obviously Dwight Freeney for a number of years, but I'm not making that comparison. As we get to another Washington corner, it's Kyler Gordon. Yeah. Haven't seen a ton of him. When I watched Washington, I was focused on Trent McDuffie, but a lot of guys are really high on Kyler Gordon. He was in the first round of DJ's mock draft as well, but I haven't really done enough on him to make any type of a claim at this moment in time. As we get to Daxton Hill, another guy that guys like a ton, and I am in that boat as well. Really good athlete, gonna run well, gonna test really well, gonna jump well, and can do a number of different things. He was a high school corner. I don't think that says that here, but he was a high school corner that has played safety. He can play the nickel. He's everything you want in just a DB. So Daxton Hill, certainly worthy of a first-round pick. As we get to Arnold Ebiketie. Ooh. Ebiketie is someone that I'm a little bit surprised to see here in the top 25, but he's really, really good. His best game where he really stood out was against Virginia Tech early in the year. And I think Amari Barno had a really good game as well. But Ebiketie, another guy that's done pretty well at the Senior Bowl, and they have another edge rusher as well, Jesse Luketa, that's looked pretty good too. But Ebiketie, seeing him in the first round, or in the top 25, even if this isn't a first-round mock, right? You're a top 25 player in the draft, you probably end up going first round or close to it. Ebiketie is a really good player. I like this. I like seeing him here. As we get to Trevor Penning, there's nothing else to say about this dude other than mean. He is a mauler. He is a finisher. And he is a freak athlete. Like 6'7", 330, something like that. Maybe, yeah, something real close to that. Maybe even 6'8". He's huge. And the only real concern is Northern Iowa up to the NFL competition. He has had some plays in one-on-ones at the Senior Bowl that you really would like to see him do a little bit better, but obviously hasn't really seen a lot of this top competition before. I think with that athleticism and more experience, probably going to adapt and grow as a player. As we get to Chris Olave. And yeah, apparently reports about Olave going to run real fast. Going to run real fast. So I'd be a little bit surprised about that. I mean, you see the smoothness in here, and that is the term that highlights him the best, I think. He's just a smooth, cool operator, right? But I don't really see his amazing speed shine through. He's a deep threat, but I don't really see amazing speed shine through on a regular basis. But apparently he's going to run the 4.3s, so I'll believe that when I see it. As we get to Jahan Dotson, his best trait to me is catching outside his frame. Catch radius is super large for someone that's a little bit smaller, like Jahan Dotson quite a bit. And his hand strength is pretty crazy as well. As we get to Bernhard Raimann, he was from Austria, receiver, moved to tight end, and then moved to left tackle. Has only played that position for a short amount of time. Talked about this in pretty much every mock draft I do where I include Bernhard Raimann. Pretty awesome, but also has been cooked at times in these Senior Bowl one-on-ones, which can be pretty telling. So we'll see what happens. I think his arms were a little bit shorter than you'd expect as well, which can be a problem for tackles as well. It's going to be interesting to see where he goes. I think he's going to end up being a first-round pick because of his lack of experience at the position and already being pretty good. Continues to learn. Will be interesting. He's already like 24, 25 though. You see Garrett Bowles, he went in the first round too. So I'm not sure age is going to be a super big concern, especially with offensive linemen as deep as those guys can play in their career. But it'll be interesting to see where he actually falls in the draft. Kind of an air raid system at Mississippi State under Mike Leach, of course. So he's doing a lot of pass protecting. But I think moves pretty well also. Seen him out in the screening game at times. I don't know. I think Charles Cross is a lot better than the 29th player in the draft. But it's going to be interesting. I think he's a really, really good athlete. I mean, he's done some crazy things athletically. Like I saw him doing just like full control, free pull-ups at over 300 pounds. Just insane. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go like top 10. Seeing him at number 29, especially behind Bernhard Raimann, is a little bit surprising to me. I like Cross a little bit more than that. I like Jamison Williams a little bit more than this as well. Injury is a bit of a concern, but he moves pretty well. I like him as a route runner. And he's probably the fastest, most explosive receiver in the draft. Like Jamison Williams a ton. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes as well. I'd love to see him drop to the second round for the Giants. I'd love that. Quay Walker. Love Quay Walker. I mean, this Georgia defense has so many studs. He's huge. 6'4", 240. Probably going to play outside linebacker in the league. I think he could play Mike too. But I think you want him just being athletic, being in space, and sometimes coming off the edge. He's going to have those opportunities to flash. But also, if you want to have him scrape, if you want to have him just blitz straight up through the gap, if he wants to play that Mike role, or depending on what a team wants to do, obviously. Getting that type of a player in space that's huge, fast, strong. You can do a number of different things with Quay Walker. Like him quite a bit. I love Andrew Booth Jr. Maybe the best ball skills of any corner in the class. He's got pretty good size as well. Has nickel flexibility. Has done that at Clemson. And I don't know. I'm a bigger fan of Andrew Booth Jr. than this too. It's a good cornerback class in my opinion. And I'm excited about Booth. I would be interested to see where he ends up going in the draft as well. You know, DJ says, believe he'll develop into a solid number 2 corner. And yeah, I think that's probably about right. And it'll be interesting to see who he's paired up with. Now, similarly to the way that I think Trayvon Diggs would be better with like a true man to man corner on the other side that can just lock down, obviously, and they can, just make plays on the ball. I obviously don't love Trayvon Diggs as a player. I think he just gets torched too frequently, despite the ball skills, but that can work. You can have your turnover machine on one side and your lockdown guy on the other, but when the Cowboys have guys like Anthony Brown on the other side, it gets to be a little bit weird. But Booth going somewhere like Atlanta, maybe, where you can have AJ Terrell on one side, Clemson duo, I kind of like that a lot. Isaiah Spiller is your first running back. I would not be shocked to see Kenneth Walker real close to this. I don't think Kenneth Walker is beyond 40, but we'll be interested. Spiller has great ability to catch the football out of the backfield too, and I think that's probably his biggest strength. When I look at Kenneth Walker, though, I see contact balance, I see the suddenness, and with Spiller, I think he's good. I probably prefer Kenneth Walker just a bit more. As we get another quarterback, it's Matt Corral. Great athleticism, pretty good arm as well. However, big knock, played in an RPO system. Ball's coming out quickly, not really asked to make a ton of reads, but he's got the arm. Sometimes he'll short a deep ball despite having the arm. It's just a consistency thing with him. So we'll have to see. Who ends up taking him. Big injuries as well down the stretch. But I think in the right system, Matt Corral could be really effective. And I think with a lot of these quarterbacks that you don't anticipate to go, like Malik Willis, you don't anticipate to go too high in the draft. Although I think Malik Willis after the Senior Bowl is inching towards the top 10. I think that it just depends on the situation. Like if Malik Willis goes to the Steelers, and I don't think he's going to be available by that pick, but if he goes to the Steelers, I think he's going to fit right in. You got weapons there already. Maybe not great ones, but you got some weapons. And you have a system of being, I want to say you have a system and a history of being effective. So is he going to be able to make more throws than Big Ben over the past few years? I think absolutely. Like Malik Willis, big arm, great athlete, and this last sentence sums it up great. Most upside of any QB in the class. As we get to Baby Baker. Little Baker Mayfield here. Sam Howell. Yeah, he's from a heavy RPO system at times as well. Underrated runner. Runs pretty strong. Pretty good arm. I like Sam Howell. I think, again, depending on the situation, you could have a future franchise quarterback. Depending on a couple of different variables, of course. As we get to my guy, Fedarian Mathis. He flashed big time when I was watching, or trying to watch, Christian Barmore last year at Bama, but he just was taken off the field a lot. And then I'm like, who's this big number 48 making plays? It's Fedarian Mathis, and he gets some respect. Top 40 here. Love Fedarian Mathis. He's been pretty good at the Senior Bowl as well. I'm a fan. And I'm also a fan of this guy. He's been good at the Senior Bowl as well. I've obviously talked him up in the past couple of mock drafts as well over this season. Devontae Wyatt. When I was watching Trayvon Walker, when I was watching some of this Georgia defense, I go, Devontae Wyatt's making some plays. He's someone that is really, really strong at the line, but also quick enough to create pressure. I love Devontae Wyatt, and even if he's not a stat sheet stuffer, I think he's someone that could be really effective on a defense. He kind of reminds me, and they're not the same type of player, but kind of reminds me of the way that Dalvin Tomlinson out of Alabama a few years ago, under the radar name, but ended up going fairly high in the draft, second round pick to the Giants, I believe, and is someone that just was a solid player. I think Devontae Wyatt's going to be that solid guy. As we get to Breece Hall at 39, it's RB2. I like Breece Hall a lot. I mean, incredible numbers. Big time touchdown machine. Where is Kenneth Walker? RB3, at the minimum, is interesting to me. But Breece Hall is good. I mean, obviously, I watched him a lot as a Texas fan. Saw him play a number of games in the Big 12 over the years. And shockingly, he's only like 20. Breece Hall is so young. So, big time opportunity to have him for a long time. I think running backs don't typically last very long. I think 27, 28 is kind of that age you typically see a drop off. But if you have Breece Hall for the entirety of his rookie contract plus some, where his wheels are still fresh, you could be getting a pretty good player there in round 2. Christian Harris. Apparently a guy that NFL teams have quite high as one of the top linebackers in the draft, like LB3. I like Christian Harris. I don't love him. I like some of the other linebackers seen on this list a bit better. But he's got good size, good speed, has been asked to do a number of different things, and has been good in a number of different roles as well. So Christian Harris is someone where if you can develop him, you're going to have a pretty good player. And that obviously goes for a lot of different guys. Daniel Faalele, 6'9", I think he's 6'8", 380 or 390. I think he weighed in at Mobile at 387. He moves pretty well for someone that's almost 400 pounds. Right tackle for the Golden Gophers. Good player. Good player. Still learning the game. I think he's from Australia. But he's got amazing size and athleticism. You got somebody you can develop. Trey McBride was one of the best tight ends in the league, or tight ends in college football in the nation this past year. Catch machine. And he's just consistent. He is just consistent. So even though I like a guy like Brock Bowers a bit more, who's obviously not draft eligible if you're a college football fan, he was a true freshman. Trey McBride is just consistent. He's going to make the plays for you. He's good in line and can do a number of different things. Block, catch. Like Trey McBride a lot. Jalen Tolbert, 43. I like that. Jalen Tolbert, good size, has killed the Senior Bowl so far. He's been amazing and is a good athlete. Great jump ball option as well. He has big time upside. This is someone who's dropped quite a bit. DeMarvin Leal, he was potential top 10 guy at the start of the season and just really didn't do a whole lot this past year, which is a bit of a problem because you might have this great 3 tech, but he's played the edge as well. Hasn't been amazing in those different areas, but I think, again, given the right situation, you have a great athlete that can be explosive, that can create that pressure on the inside. I like DeMarvin Leal. I probably don't like him as a first-round caliber player, but 2 or 3 years, could DeMarvin Leal be really, really good? I think absolutely. Roger McCreary, maybe the best man corner in the draft. Love Roger McCreary. McCreary is really physical, got away with some holds at times at Auburn, but McCreary is someone, can I say McCreary? It's tough for me for some reason. I like him. I like him. Probably the best corner in the SEC last year. So we get to another tight end, Isaiah Likely. Yeah, he's like that hybrid, like I'd almost call him like an H-back, like a Jonnu Smith type player. Good hands, good speed as well. And yeah, could be a second round guy probably. I'd like to see where Kenneth Walker is, if he's even in the top 50. As we get to Kaiir Elam, he was just injured so much. So it's tough to know what you're really getting here. Was really good a year ago, and he's big. I think he's 6'2", with good speed. Kaiir Elam is someone that, again, has big-time potential. However, something to note about these guys that are injured all the time is that just doesn't typically go away. So something to keep in mind there. As we get to Max Mitchell out of Louisiana for the Raging Cajuns. He's a name that I'm excited to see up here as well. He's a big riser. He's not that big. He's like 6'4", 6'5", 290, maybe 300. He's a little bit lighter than you'd typically expect for a tackle. I've already been on the page. You know, he's listed at 6'6", but 299. So he's a bit lighter. But he's someone I haven't watched a ton, so I really don't want to say too much about him. But yeah, excited to see his name rise up the list. He's been someone that has floated around for a while as one of the top tackles in the draft. So he's a Logan Hall. Interesting to see him listed at defensive tackle, by the way. He's someone that has moved around at edge, on the inside as well. His bull rush was big. Killed with the bull rush, and that has shown up as well at the Senior Bowl. He's been very, very good there, as you'd expect. And he's a name that's kind of floated around the top of the second round, back end of the first for a while now, as one of those guys that could sneak in. Really good player. Not really surprised to see him in the top 50. And the last of the top 50 is Lewis Seen. Seen, I feel like, is pretty synonymous with that hit on Kyle Pitts, where he basically knocked himself out. But he's actually pretty good in coverage as well. But yeah, his big thing is He's, yeah, as he says, tough, physical, hard-nosed, big hitter, loves to make plays near the line of scrimmage. I like Lewis Cine. Put him in the box, let him go to work. But I'm surprised not to see Kenneth Walker on this list while seeing Breece Hall. I can get that with the age, maybe. And also seeing Isaiah Spiller. Maybe you like him for the age, maybe you like him for the ability. And yeah, I'm surprised not to see Kenneth Walker top 50 with two other running backs in there. But Breece Hall is good. Isaiah Spiller is good. So you can't have everybody inside a top 50. There are a number of players that I think deserve consideration, and I'm sure they were considered, obviously. But there are a couple edge guys. There are a couple more DBs. Kenneth Walker. And there are a couple receivers as well. To not see like a John Mechie inside the top 50 hurts me. I like John Mechie so much. And it'll be interesting to see how this list evolves over time as DJ gets into more of the prospects. It always changes leading up to the draft, so this is not a set in stone top 50. You're going to see players go up and down. And yeah, it'll be exciting to see how this list evolves over time. So I'm excited to start diving into some of these players as well. So I don't have to say, yeah, I've seen this guy a little bit. I can say, yeah, I've watched a ton of this guy. I've seen 6 or 7 games. And I can really tell you strengths, weaknesses, and fits. So excited for that. Draft content coming across the rest of February, March, April. Stoked. Make sure you subscribe for that. And I'll see you in the next one.
It's insane, I hit it at the park, Ben Bones. See me high step to the end zone. My life like a game, Nintendo. Playing with the best, let them know. Get off the track, the train's coming through. Yeah, promise you get in my way, then you best believe I'ma just run over you. Yeah, yeah. I'ma turn taking it back to the house. Defensive joke, I'm laughing so loud. Speedbird's good.